guy with 91 felonies who Fox News is going on TV now right now and saying he could run the country from jail. That's where we're at. That's where we're coping and trying to figure out, well, because that looks like the most likely scenario we have, since the Democrats will not budge off of Joe Biden for any reason, despite him being 9,000 years old, not knowing where he's at, and still funding a genocide down 300 points to the orange felony guy. So that's where we're at, politics wise, and I'll leave it there.
CJ, I have a question for you. I've
Sure.
heard you talk a couple of times about Biden being unpopular with young voters. Was Biden unpopular because of his age? Was he unpopular prior to the Hamas? Is an Israeli thing. And secondly, who do you all think could beat Donald Trump? I know you're not thinking about Gary Newsom. He's out in California. California is not considered one of the states that's the hottest state in the world. They call it the land of fruits and nuts. So who do you think could I've heard this before with young people. Biden is old, he needs to be replaced. Is it because of his age? Is it because of policies?
No, oh yeah, I'll tell you exactly what it
What
is.
do you think Biden could do to stop Netanyahu from doing what he's doing?
Well, he should come out with a stronger rebuke in terms of funding. It's like the only control we have over Israel is the amount of money that we give them. He has signed an executive order to bypass Congress to give them more weapons, to give them more money, and things like that. So those types of moves are going to make you unpopular with young people. It actually has nothing to do with its age, although it's kind of gaslighting, other than the fact they're gaslighting people into thinking that he is like completely fine. Where it's like, oh, he's fine. He's spry. He's down for another 4 years. That's ridiculous if you've seen him talk within the last 4 years.
Well,
but it's not the age. But it's not the age thing, because you know who young people really loved? Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is super old too. He's older than Biden, so it's not an age thing.
My only comeback to young people would be, if you have a problem with Biden's policies, or you have a problem with this neo-Nazi that they're talking about that could go into the White House, because his policies with Putin and everybody else makes Biden's policies look like kindergarten. So, young, and the other thing I want to say is, do you think young people are not going to vote?
Yeah, absolutely. Young people will absolutely not vote because, like I said, what are we voting for? If we're going to get the same results from Biden and we're going to get the same results from Trump, a lot of people aren't going to feel empowered to vote, and that's the issue. Biden could easily mobilize people by making a bigger contrast between him and Trump. A lot of his policies he left in place that Trump had implemented. Like a lot of people don't feel the material difference between Biden and Trump from their votes. And that's Biden's fault to not do more for people with the power that he has. Instead of shipping money to Ukraine and Israel, he could have been helping people here. We still have no health care here in America. You know who has health care? Israel. The people we're sending more of our money to for them to do an offensive war against mostly children. So that's not going to make you popular when people are drowning over here, can't afford groceries, can't afford rent. And doesn't seem to be a concern of Joe Biden. So I'm not saying that Donald Trump is better, but what are people voting for with Joe Biden? People are going to get up, skip work, do what they got to do to stand in line and vote for Joe Biden, for him to basically spit in their face and not work for any of the policy positions that he promised to do, that he did, that he promised the first time around. So it's not like that people have these unrealistic expectations and want Joe Biden to be awesome, but being better than Trump is a really low bar. And if you can't hit that bar, then that's you need a new candidate. And who can beat Trump? According to the polls, nearly everyone, the generic Democrat, is better than Trump, because Biden himself is so unpopular from his lack of policies, I would say, more than anything, because Biden hasn't really done much of anything since he's been in office in terms of legislative accomplishments that people can feel. What are Biden's accomplishments in 4 years, other than rent's more unaffordable? Let's see, say the price of inflation, things like that are unimportant. That's what people feel. And that he has no plan and doesn't seem to address it. His whole thing is Trump is bad. We know Trump is bad. We've done 4 years of Trump. We've done 4 years of Biden. They feel the same for most people. So that's the issue of why young people and a lot of people, not just young people, aren't going to feel motivated to go vote for Joe Biden when he has not done anything for anybody, and his whole campaign is running on, hey, we need to stop Donald Trump again, when he is now literally the worst person for that job. According to every poll, according to every piece of data and metric, he is the person most likely to lose to Donald Trump. So if he really cared about that, if that was a sincere thing, like we need to save democracy, he would step aside and endorse anyone else, younger, more popular, even a Gavin Newsom like that. I'm not a huge fan of Gavin Newsom, but I think he would do better than Joe Biden right now in the polls, just because Joe Biden has a terrible, terrible legislative history. And Gavin Newsom doesn't have quite that beyond California. So like there's just the optics of just having a generic guy whose brain is not melting, who is not actively funding a genocide, would be a better choice than Joe Biden right now, who has not really done anything to differentiate himself from Donald Trump other than not have 91
I want to
charges.
say something on this. I think we got to really pay attention to what CJ's saying. One thing about crossing that bar of an age called 50, okay, is once you cross that bar of an age called 50, there are more younger people behind us than there are older people in front of us, right? I think we have to really pay attention to what he's saying, because what CJ is saying makes a lot of sense to me, because I run the calculations and numbers on anything I do. A young man who definitely didn't like math growing up uses it every day in everything I do. And based on calculations I've seen, if there are more young people than retired people, and it appears to be that's the case right now, and those younger people are trending towards voting for the lesser of two evils. What CJ is basically saying is we can run anybody up there. We can run anybody. Young people would rather take a chance on a young person with enthusiasm who's in politics, even if they only have 5 or 10 years of political experience, than to put an 82-year-old man back in has done nothing but have increased inflation, and try to defend his son, who seems to be in trouble with the law every other day. Look, I'm a Democrat. I don't want Trump to win. The bottom line is Trump's going to win. I said it here. Trump's going to win unless we run somebody else. Okay. Like I said, maybe it's Maze Gilliam from Head of State, the 2004 Chris Rock movie. I don't know, but we better run somebody who's younger. If we don't, the question will soon become not whether Trump wins, who's Trump's running mate in case he actually gets convicted on some of these 91 charges, okay? And then he's going to use presidential immunity, and then he's going to try to outlive the charges. I mean, a man who's 78, I mean, if he lives to be 100, he's going to try to delay this in court for over 20 years. I'm telling you right now, the question will soon become, who is Trump's running mate? Because they may be the next president of the United States. Nobody seems like Kamala Harris. So we're not. So I think, yeah, I think what CJ is saying carries a lot of weight. Look, in this country, to be the president of the United States, you have to be an effective leader. Joe Biden is not an effective leader. Okay, that's the problem. Trump, whether you can be an evil effective leader and a good effective leader. Some people will say Trump's an evil effective leader. Some people say he's a good effective leader. The problem is, the bottom line is, Trump's actually an effective leader. He can have people attack the Capitol, something that's never ever been done before. Okay, he's an effective leader, whether he's good or bad, and he's probably going to win. So I think CJ's right on. I think we better get somebody else to run against him. If we don't, just start thinking about who Donald Trump's running mate's going to be, because they might end up being president. That's my political take.
Yeah, for how incompetent Donald Trump is, like you said, he actually got a lot done for the people that he was working for. Tax cuts for the rich, those went through. He ain't build a wall, he ain't do all that, but he cut them taxes for the rich, for the indefinite future, for people in his tax bracket. So he gets things done for his donors. It's not the things that we want, but he's effective, like you said, at implementing his agenda. It's just a terrible agenda for most of the American people.
And he's definitely not professional. But other than that, I don't want him to win. I am not a Republican, but his leadership, his ability to rally people is going to go down in history as one of the greatest things ever for his base. Now, again, can we get somebody else to run? We probably could, but they won't back up off of it. So we have to figure out what's going to happen, because you're right. If young people don't go out and vote, Trump's definitely in there. It's like it's going to be a landslide. So we have to figure this out. Those 91 charges, his lawyers are great. Has he been convicted of anything yet? So Mr. Spivey, so basically what you're saying is, if Trump is going down and the Democrats don't run anybody else, Do you think Nikki Haley or DeSantis can beat Biden?
The polls say yes.
No, I don't believe so.
And this is where I'm going to agree with
Carlos,
CJ. I'm going to agree with CJ and say yes. I'm telling you, I think the
Yeah,
young people are
the
going
polls
to
say
vote
yes.
anybody except Biden.
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you all because I don't believe that in this late date of January, you can throw anybody, just go get anybody, as CJ say, get somebody off the street and put them up as a Democrat to run against.
There's two people running against him in the primary.
I don't think you can do that. I really
It's
don't. But the bottom line is, it's kind of that old saying, who is the best of the both evils? Who is the lesser of both evils? You know, you brought up the thing about retired folks like myself and Gary. There's more young people behind us than the retired folks.
Right.
Well, you know, the thing you better keep in mind, if Trump goes back in, Trump can't do a whole lot to the retired folks. He can't screw with your Social Security. He can't screw with your retirement. But the people he can affect is those young ones that you said is behind us.
No,
they're already getting screwed under Biden.
And he's already laid out. He says if he goes back in, his first order of business is to attack each of his enemies. He says that he's going to completely get rid of the FBI, which he probably will do.
He created the Space Force.
So, you know, you got to think about that, you know.
I'm not arguing that Biden is not the lesser of two evils, but he's got to make that case to the American people, of people who aren't knee deep in politics, who are looking at the nitty gritty. Because if you're looking on the surface, most people don't feel a material difference in their lives between Trump and Biden. And like I was saying before, it's a policy thing. Like Biden could easily do this by just being a little bit more progressive. That's what young voters want. That's a strategic decision. If you want to win the election, is to maybe go a little bit less conservative and a little bit less old school status quo in your politics, because that's not really what young people want. But he's sticking to his guns despite the polls saying that he's going to get annihilated in the polls, not lose by in a close race or be competitive. It looks to be a bloodbath in terms of Donald Trump. And if it was Nikki Haley or anyone else on that Republican side, it's a Joe Biden problem more than a Democrat as a whole problem. There are two people running against him in the primary too. They just will not advertise them because they're set in saying there's no primary. Joe Biden's going to be the candidate no matter what. Marianne Williamson is polling better on the Democratic side than any of the Republican challengers to Donald Trump, who are all getting town halls, who are doing debates. Christie, Haley, Marianne Williamson has higher poll numbers than all of them on the Democratic side, but they won't talk about her because she's progressive and they won't allow that in the party. So they're just saying Biden's the only choice. You don't get to even look at anyone else. You don't even get to debate anyone. Like, it's just Biden. That's your only choice. That's a terrible decision. That's going to blow up in their face to not even give voters a choice. Because if Biden was the strongest candidate, being an incumbent president, he would destroy a primary challenger. If he was popular, if he was the strongest candidate, he would breeze through a primary on the Democratic side and then be able to challenge Trump. But that's not the case. They're hiding him because they know Joe Biden, he can't debate Donald Trump. He can't debate the cat, my dad's cat down there in Florida. Like, Joe Biden is not capable of like he said, running a country like right now. Just it's not just his age, just his mental abilities. Like Donald Trump is also old, but he seems to be sharper mentally, unfortunately, even though he's insane. Yeah. But in terms of him being able to complete a coherent thought, that he's better than Biden, unfortunately. And like, they gotta have a reckoning of self-reflection in the Democratic Party, because what's coming out right now in terms of the reporting is most of them are fine to lose to Donald Trump as long as they don't lose their spot in the party, their favorability. A lot of people they're fine to go down with the Joe Biden ship as long as they're seen as being team players. So the next election around, they'll still be in high regards in the party and the politics and within the Democratic Party. So it's not a sincere thing when they're fear-mongering, talking about, hey, you got to vote for us or Donald Trump, when it seems like they don't care whether they lose to Donald Trump as long as they have their grip on power still within the party. So that's the issue a lot of people are seeing through. I believe that Joe Biden is a better choice than Donald Trump, like, honestly, even though I think they're both untenable choices for the American people. But in terms of Donald Trump just being a maniac who would totally try to subvert democracy, I think he's crazier and probably more dangerous But in terms of Joe Biden not being able to make a case to the American people as to why he's better than the crazy 91 felony guy is a Joe Biden problem and not a voter problem.
Of course. Well, I have another. What is driving the unpopularity among the young folks with Kamala Harris?
She was never popular to begin with. That's the issue.
I want to know what makes her so unpopular.
It was her policies in California, but when she was running, they made her unpopular. She was a very tough on crime prosecutor. She locked up a lot of people for things like weed and laughing about that. And then going on the Breakfast Club talking about how she used to smoke weed and listen to Tupac before Tupac was even an artist and things like that. So there's an inauthentic air of her being inauthentic and unlikable in terms of things like that, and just personality wise. If we're just talking politics, that's I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's what people.
Hold on, I got the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about it, right? Nobody wants to say this about Kamala Harris. I like Kamala. She all right with me. But I'm just saying, the elephant in the room, another thing people won't say out loud they don't like about Kamala. Kamala's husband is not black. People won't say that. But if she had showed up with a Jesse Jackson type husband, she'd be a lot more popular right now. I'm just saying. And that may not have nothing to do with it.
Carlos, in that vein, that may be true. And
it may be true. That's what I'm saying.
I would not doubt it, but you look around the Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown. Her husband's not black. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, his wife is not black. I mean, I can keep it going.
No, you
can't. I don't even think that's the main concern.
If that is the basis for you disliking,
it is not the basis for me.
But I think
I don't think that's the main issue.
That's not the main issue.
The problem that I have is today that's social media, and it's just like that with the Cat Williams thing.
Yeah.
A small thing. People today, they love drama, they love dirt. Okay, so when you tell me that she was hard on crime, she locked up people, she smoked marijuana, and went on the Breakfast Club and talked about it. And
everybody's gonna get 3 minutes, so keep going. Everybody gonna get 3 minutes. Keep on.
That makes her and that makes her unpopular. I have a hard time with that because I want to know about policies. I want to know about concrete stuff. I'm not concerned with Kamala Harris smoking weed. And if you talk about hard on crime, I would love to see her ass sitting in the Justice Department now and get real hard on these little suckers out here, 14, 15, 16 years old, that's carjacking people and putting people in the grave. Somebody needs to be hard on crime. So I would love to see her, not the vice president, but the attorney general.
I don't think her smoking weed is a problem. It's her locking up a bunch of people for that and then saying she was smoking weed in that same time period while she was gleefully locking up and taking people's freedom away for something that she admitted that she does in her free time. That's the hypocriticism. And the only thing I'll add to that is a question. Why is Kamala Harris the vice president? She wasn't popular. She wasn't the strongest candidate against Joe Biden. She didn't even win her home state of California. She dropped out before she even got to California because she wasn't doing well in her run for president. So why is Kamala Harris even the vice president?
Well, I'll do like Carlos. I'll talk about the elephant in the room. Joe Biden chose it because he wanted the black vote. I mean, the bottom line. I mean, it's just like when John McCain was running. What did they do? They pushed Sarah Palin on him because he was trying to get the women. So
well, that's my point, though. It wasn't for her merit. It was because he needed the optics of having a black woman be his running mate.
On the same hand, she was qualified for the job. Okay.
Well, Donald Trump was president. Anybody's qualified for these jobs at this point. Like, I mean,
anybody's qualified to be the president.
It's presentation.
I mean, you talking about an idiot that's getting ready to come back in that can't give you more than four syllable words. And you talk about the next election. Keep in mind, one of the things that Donald Trump says is going to be his objective if he goes back into the White House, that there will be no more elections, that he will be president for life.
Yeah, that's basically what Carlos said. It's a messaging problem from Biden. Like I said, it's not me who has to make the case for Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden that has to make the case on why he's better than the 91 felony guy, and he's not doing a good job. Like that's just the bottom line. Like Joe Biden needs to do a better job and the Democrats of explaining to the American people why he's better than Trump, not just because Trump is dangerous, but what he is going to do for them in the next 4 years. There seems to be no agenda other than, hey, we got to keep Trump out. And then what? Then like a lot of people are asking that question. Again, I agree with you that Donald Trump is super dangerous. But again, I'm not the one who needs to make that case. I'm not the one running for president. I can try to convince people as much as I can, but Joe Biden's not making a big difference between himself and Trump, other than, like I said, Trump going to the full extreme of being like, I will literally be a dictator going into the office. Like, but in terms of people's policies, in terms of the policy positions that the George Floyd Justice Act, we didn't get that. All the little things that Biden says on paper and the Democrats do that is so performative, it's not working anymore. Like people would like a healthcare system. People would like to go to the doctor without medical bankruptcy. That's a big, big priority. That's something that in every election cycle since Obama, people have been trying to beg for. And Joe Biden has no plan to address that. It's things like that. He could easily just say, hey, I'll at least do a public option. I won't even do Medicare for all. I won't even do, because he said he would veto healthcare for everyone. So again, things like that make Joe Biden unpopular. Saying you're going to veto universal healthcare in America if it gets to your desk is not going to make you popular, not just with young people, but with most people, because medical debt is only a thing here in America. Again, most of these other countries we're sending bombs and money to, their citizens can go to the doctor without going broke. There's little things that he could do here. He talked about descheduling marijuana, never got around to doing that. That's an issue that affects a lot of people, especially young people, that might help him in the polls. And again, with Muslim and Arab voters, a block that he really needs, him, murdering their families or funding it, maybe not directly doing it, but sending the money and the bombs and the go-ahead to bomb their families is not going to make him popular with the Arab and Muslim base in the country. Like, that's a Joe Biden problem that he could easily fix. Those are self-inflicted wounds. So as much as, Trump is dangerous, Trump seems to be completely avoidable if we had a competent challenger to him.
Woo, woo, woo. Time. Oh my goodness. I wish we had more time. Fellas, this was a show. This was a show. As an outside observer, this was a generational show. This was generational. I mean, like top, middle, and bottom. I mean, this was it. So for those of you watching the show, wherever you are, you all decide. You decide. Everybody had their take. We are the Thought Brothers. And until next week, we are out of here.
Good night.
Have a good week, people. Enjoy the NFL games.